What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here, and today alongside the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, Apple did release the new iPad Pro, the Apple TV 4, some new watch faces, as well as an updated iPad Mini 4. So in this video, I'm going to be covering what's new about all of these exciting devices. This is pretty much everything else Apple did announce at the event. The iPhone 6s video I do have on my channel. You can click right there on the link and go ahead and be taken to that video. But let's go ahead and start with the all-new iPad Pro. This thing is a much larger version of an iPad we already have. However, Apple has found a place and a market for it. It's aimed at professional media usage, especially if you're a hardcore consumer and like games and media in full screen at 12 inches. So although there was a lot of chatter about this, it wasn't really expected that we would be seeing this so soon. Now, although it's not coming out right now, it's coming out much later, the iPad Pro will make a large ripple. This thing is more than just a gargantuan iPad. There's actually so much unique to it, and let's go ahead and get into the details. So first off, 12.9 inch display. Everything that you do, you'll be doing bigger on a larger scale, although it is optimized especially for that larger display. Apple's put in a lot of work into making sure this thing is geared at the right professional usage. The display is a lot more accurate as well. Not only is it larger, but Apple has made it a lot more accurate with a new technology. I'll get into that in just a second. This thing does feature a full-size keyboard, so this keyboard is going to be a lot more comfortable to use in landscape mode. I know that with my current iPad, the regular size, it's a little bit stuck in between. So this thing is going to be on the high-end display. It'll be a lot more comfortable to use the display when it's laying flat on the table. And of course, this is probably geared towards the Surface competition. Although it's not running OS X, it is running a custom version of iOS 9 that will allow optimized applications in the split screen view. Now, something interesting about this device that Apple actually mentioned was that in the width, it's actually the same size as the height of the regular iPad. So that means making applications run optimized on this thing is going to be very easy. Developers will be able to just flip their applications on the side and add an extra section for multitasking. Now, Apple was very proud of the display they put into this thing as well. It's using a lot of new technologies that the other iPads don't have. First off, the pixel density is very high. This thing actually has more pixels than the 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro, 5.6 million. That's just crazy. So how did Apple spin this larger display? Well, first off, they're telling us it's going to have a much more cinematic view when viewing content or movies, pictures. You'll be able to get more immersed in the actual display, and that goes for gaming as well. Gaming will be a lot more immersive when there's a larger display. It'll allow for so many more things, so many more opportunities for games on a larger display, especially multitasking. So I'm really excited to see what happens there. Now, this new iPad Pro shares technology with the iMac 5K. It has the same custom timing controller in order to allow all the pixels to be pushed at a very fast rate. And there were so many, so they needed to design an individual one for this device, which I think was cool. Now, the display actually has variable timing for the pixels, for the refresh rate. So that means when you don't need the fastest refresh rate, the iPad Pro will be able to actually lower it in order to improve efficiency. And this is the first time this technology has ever made it to an iPad. Now remember, iPads usually use a custom version of the iPhone chip. Well, this is the A9X. This is actually a very, very fast chip. It's scary fast, and especially in the iPad Pro, it'll make for some really great uses. This thing is 1.8 times faster than the A8X used in the iPad Air 2, and that thing was already crazy fast. It broke the charts. This thing is 22 times faster than the original iPad. I thought this was a really interesting comparison, and just to see how far we've come, that's crazy. It's actually 80% faster than most portable PCs and laptops, and that's in an iPad format. That says a lot. Apple actually demoed some video editing on this thing, and it's a lot better. You can edit 3 streams of 4K on this thing. I mean, most computers can't even do that, and you can do that on this iPad Pro. Really cool. Now, this thing has a very great battery life. For what it offers, all those pixels, surprisingly, you get 10 hours of battery life. Now, it could be better, but that is still very good. The iPad Pro will come with a 4-speaker audio system. This was really impressive because most before it have had nowhere near as many. I mean, 2 at most, and it's all packing this in the same slim frame. Now, about these speakers, they're 3 times louder than the iPad Air 2, and they're actually going to be balanced depending on how you hold your device one speaker will have a louder output than another, so it'll be a very balanced sound. And this thing is very slim, 6.9 millimeters. That's about the thickness of the current iPhone 6. 6.1 is the iPad Air 2. It's a lot thinner, but of course it has less internals inside of it. Now this here compares the weight to the original iPad. It's grown in size, in power, and graphical performance, yet it's retained the rough amount of weight as the original iPad in a slimmer form factor. And that is progress. So who's this thing for? Well, it's actually aimed a lot at professional usage. However, of course, whoever wants to buy it will find a greater experience because a larger display does allow for so much more with an iPad, especially when it comes to note taking. This thing is going to focus heavily on it, and it now has a new custom cover, very reminiscent of the Surface cover, which has a built-in keyboard, and it uses the same butterfly technology taken from the new MacBook. So it's all around going to be a great cover. I can't wait to test it out in person, but it uses a custom fabric made by Apple for a very great responsiveness. There's no word on whether or not this cover is coming to the original iPads. However, it would be nice. It looks very convenient, something you could throw into your backpack and go to college, take some notes with having to lug a Bluetooth keyboard around with you. And this thing actually plugs into a new port on the iPad Pro, which actually delivers data and electricity, and it doesn't use Bluetooth. It just plugs right in, so you get an instant keyboard just like that. Now, alongside this keyboard, Apple is introducing something the iPad has needed for a very long time. Although your finger is good as a precision tool, it's not the best. So Apple has released the new Apple Pencil. So this thing is going to be incredibly accurate. Actually, the iPad Pro display was calibrated to be twice as accurate as the iPad Air 2. So the Apple Pencil is a pressure-sensitive stylus. It'll allow you to create very accurate works of art. If you're into drawing, especially note-taking, this thing will be very oriented for the iPad Pro, especially pressure sensitivity. Now, the iPad Pro isn't going to have a Force Touch display. Instead, it has a Force Touch sensitive stylus. So this thing paired with a very accurate display will allow for some very nice drawing abilities. You can press harder to get a thicker line. You can turn the pen sideways to get a much thicker pattern of the line. So all around, this thing is made to act just like a pencil. So it's going to be very similar in terms of using it, just like you would a regular pencil. There's a ton of sensors packed into this thing, so it's a lot more advanced than it looks. Not only that, there's a built-in battery inside, as well as an ability to charge it just by taking off the end piece and plugging it straight into the iPad. I thought that was really cool. Sensors included are an accelerometer and a gyroscope so far that we know of, but overall it looks to be a very advanced and nice stylus, unlike anything that I've ever seen, and the fact that you can just charge it with your iPad is incredibly useful. Now, the great thing is Apple gave the API to developers, especially Microsoft, which they demoed in the actual event. They'll be able to create third-party applications with this thing, allowing you to easily manipulate their applications with this pressure-sensitive stylus. So all around, looks to be a great update, although Apple did keep some of the specs low, such as the LTE speeds. They're not on the same spec as the iPhone. That update we'll see next generation. But overall, looks to be very capable, and I cannot wait to try this thing out in person. So other than that, the iPad Mini 4 actually got an update as well. So it has received the internals from the current iPad Air 2. That means AAX chip, and it's going to be very fast with 2 gigabytes of RAM. So the iPad Pro starts at $799 and jumps to $1079 with 128 gigabyte and cellular. Overall, decent pricing, I guess, for what it can do. Now, the Apple Pencil and Smart Keyboard are a bit spendy, but they are definitely worth getting if you're going to get this device. And the device will actually ship in November, so it's going to be a while until we actually see it. So the iPad refreshes were a very welcome surprise, especially the iPad Pro. Again, cannot wait to get that in hand and try out, especially with the sound. So that brings me to the Apple TV. This is the 4th generation. It's been a while, about 3 years since the last generation, and Apple is adding a ton to this new TV for a very good price. It starts at $149. However, it's going to gain so much more functionality. So to begin, Apple has finally developed an app store for the Apple TV, as well as handed the API to developers. Now, the new remote has a new touch surface, no display as it was rumored, but it does come equipped with Siri. So I was actually very impressed with the Siri demo. You can actually ask it to play movies with individual actors, depending on if you're with children, on ratings. This thing is so diverse with what it can do. So I was really impressed with that, and this thing is incredibly cheap for what it can do. No 4K support, unfortunately, and it's using an outdated Bluetooth 4.0 standard. However, there is no infrared on the actual remote. It's Bluetooth, so you don't need to point it at the thing, which is a lot better. And overall, I'm very impressed at the price point, what this thing does offer. Apple has opened up the gates to gaming on an Apple TV. So although it's going to be very light, Apple did demo some games that were available on consoles and computers. It was a very light one. I know it's not really going to be so powerful. It'll be powered by an A8 chip, but it's awesome to have games available in an app store for your Apple TV. The remote will be very Wii-like, inspired by the Wii, that's for sure. And this thing will be available in October. So lastly, that brings me to the Apple Watch. Although, no, the Apple Watch 2 wasn't announced, they talked a little bit about where the Apple Watch is right now, and it's actually made a lot of waves. Apple Watch OS 2 is coming very soon on September 16th, and it'll add a ton of new functionality. I actually have a video about that on my channel. Apple's partnered with a company to bring you custom watch faces and bands, and there are 2 new colors for the Apple Watch Sport, which I'll be showing you in person. However, one of them is gold and the other is rose gold. Overall, the finish looks fantastic without having to pay $17,000 for your watch. There's some new bands, and the Apple Watch Edition will actually have some new finishes and bands as well. I'll be showing you that in a later video. So Apple is pretty much looking to refresh the interest in the Apple Watch. They added some new bands to the Sport Edition as well as a custom product red band, which I thought was really cool. So I'll be looking forward to getting these and showing you guys all of these products in my future videos. But I'm very proud of Apple. They're making good progress. This was a very good keynote. Along with the 6S and 6S Plus, the iPad Pro and Apple TV 4 will surely make some great waves, and I'll be reviewing everything on my channel. Be sure to stay tuned for that, guys. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed these videos. Peace.